So let's get on to the build. Let's take the motherboard out of the bag and put it on top of the motherboard box for no static. The next step is to take out the CPU and put it on the CPU socket. First, you open the hinge on the side of the CPU socket. Then you line up the arrow on the CPU to the arrow on the motherboard. Then you push the CPU holder firmly down and take off the plastic cover. Now let's install the RAM. So first you open the hinges on the side, line up the RAM and push it firmly on both sides. And you do the same thing for the second one. Now let's install the I/O shield for the motherboard. You only need to line up the I/O shield with the socket and push it firmly to make sure that it's stapled in there. Now let's install the power supply. You put the side with the fan on the bottom and line the screw holes with the case screw holes. Now let's screw the power supplies in. You should screw diagonally like what I'm doing here to make sure that it doesn't fall out later on. Now let's route the power supply's cable in the back for the cable management later on. Now let's put the motherboard in the case. You need to use this stand for the motherboard. So first you screw in the standoff in the case first. Now let's put the motherboard inside the case. You need to line up all the ports with the I/O shield that you have installed earlier. And after you've done that, now you screw in the motherboard. And when after you have installed all the screws on the motherboard, you put the cooler on. As you guys can see, I'm using the stock cooler from Intel, but if you want to do any overclocking, I recommend you use the other cooler for the CPU to prevent it from overheat. Now let's put the cooler cable into a fan header on the motherboard. And after you've done that, you should put the fan in the back and plug the cable inside another fan header on the motherboard. Now let's install the graphics card. First you need to take the shield on the case off. And then you put the graphics card onto the PCI Express slot on the motherboard. Now let's screw in the graphics card. Now let's plug all the cable from the power supply onto the motherboard. First is the 12-pin power connector. You should line it up perfectly and then just plug it in. Now let's plug all the cable from the case onto the motherboard. Now let's install the hard drive onto the hard drive cage in the case, and yeah, it should be as easy as that. Now let's connect the SATA cable and the power cable onto the hard drive. Now let's put the optical drive into the case.
Oops.
After you put the optical drive in, you should plug in the SATA and the power cable to the power supply. Now let's use zip tie to cable manage this build. I accidentally broke the USB 3 cable.
Damn it!
Well, that's the cable management done. And yeah. That's it for the build guide. I did a pretty good job since it's my first build. But yeah, the USB 3 cable thing is not fun. But yeah, that's it. Now let's boot this thing up and install Windows on it. That's it for the video today, guys. I hope you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe if you want to see more leak and review videos. And peace.